Boy, am I ever lucky. Wayaska Halt, Pisinak Seal, and Chaya Squeeze, Asiyut. Good day, my dear friends and relatives. My traditional name is Asiyut. I would like to begin by acknowledging our Tsleil-Waututh brothers and sisters, our relatives, and our allies. I would also like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh. And I would like to thank the organizers for the kind invitation to come to this beautiful spot in Coast Salish territory and to spend some time with all of you. Seriously, I don't think there's anything I could add to what Joan has so eloquently said. Joan and I have been together for 37 years. And believe me, when we first met, I was wandering around lost in the Hollywood Disneyland, pretty much with a big poster of John Wayne on my wall. And for 37 years, Joan has been educating me about the true history, the world history of colonization, imperialism, and the brutality of the efforts on the part of the colonial powers to take up indigenous lands and for the sole purpose of exploiting those lands for profit. And we've had an incredible life together. And from the time that we came together, when Joan was involved with the Native Alliance for Red Power, the American Indian Movement, in the 70s, Joan was the spokesperson for a Native peoples delegation that went to the People's Republic of China and spent a couple of weeks touring China when it was still closed to the West. And she was in Chiapas just after the uprising, a decade or so ago. And Joan's been at my side and quite often behind me, kicking my butt and telling me to get out there and do the right thing. And I'm proud to say that our children have grown up at barricades, demonstrations and rallies. Our grandchildren were involved in those massive rallies put together by the trade union movement when Mr. Campbell first came to power, and we're pushing them along in a stroller. And so all of our family, our community in Penticton has a reputation for standing up to defend the land, to defend the inherent rights of Indigenous peoples. But through that experience, we've learned the important and valuable lesson that we are in this together. That the good people of this land for many generations have made the conscious decision to live here, to invest their hard work and labor in building livelihoods, and to raise their children in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. We know that there are powerful, powerful interests that still seek to exploit these lands for profit. Kinder Morgan is but one of many of those corporations that are in bed with the BC Liberal government, with the Stephen Harper government, and in many ways what we have in this country is a perfect storm. And it just got worse with the election of Mr. Prentice in Alberta, who we all know was a recent employee of Enbridge, who was attempting to hoodwink the First Nations people in the north to buy into the Enbridge heavy oil pipeline notions. We've seen the devastation of the Mount Polley tailings pond breach in the last several weeks, and everyone here understands that a spill is a spill is a spill, regardless if it's Imperial Metals or Enbridge or Kinder Morgan. We know the absolute devastation that that will wreak on this beautiful land and how devastating and destructive it will be to so many tens of thousands of lives. And yet Kinder Morgan and their cronies in government could care less, because all they care about is something they call economic certainty, which means the ability to ram these heavy oil pipelines through, and they could care less about whether there actually are spills, tanker spills, pipeline ruptures. And the only thing standing in the way of that is the people. At the end of the day, we cannot rely on the courts, and we certainly cannot rely on the honor of the Crown or the integrity of government. We know that. We absolutely have to support champions and leaders. I do not consider the Mayor Corrigan as a politician. Politicians are those people that clamor around Harper and Clark and are willfully involved in this cronyism that's going to be responsible for wreaking that devastation on Mother Earth. Mr. Corrigan is a leader, and I really enjoyed Gregor Robertson is a leader. And without a doubt, the good people of Tsleil-Waututh have demonstrated incredible and amazing leadership in bringing the First Nations people in this province together in solidarity and opposing Kinder Morgan. The people in the Indigenous people, the First Nations people, stand in complete solidarity in opposition to Enbridge without question. And we've managed through this type of gatherings, certainly through the Idle No More movement, to know and understand at the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters in this common cause. And when Mr. Corrigan stood up here and talked about the Easter be-in, I remember that. And Joan and I started to chuckle over there and laugh and remember those days. I remember the aroma of the Easter be-in. But those were exciting times. I remember the anti-Vietnam War movement, the peace movement, all of those good things that would bring us together by the tens of thousands. As we would march across the Burrard Street Bridge, we'd gather by the thousands, our children were there, and we knew and understand we had that collective responsibility, that collective obligation to each other and to the land that Joan spoke about earlier. And I'm proud to say as a grandparent, most importantly as a grandparent, that I am still able, I am so grateful that I am still able to continue to march through the streets and to go to the Tarzan's Healing Walk and to all of those opportunities that present themselves across this country to stand in solidarity with good people like yourselves. Jonah and I have seen the inside of jail cells in the past as a consequence of our politics, and I suspect we will do so in the future. We're very familiar with those people standing on the hillside there. But that's all part of the dynamic of defending the land. We know we're not together. We know we stand together shoulder to shoulder. This fight is not over. It's in the courts. It's part of the political dynamic. But at the end of the day, we may all be somewhere in this immediate area standing in front of bulldozers. And I can guarantee I absolutely guarantee that Jonah and I will be there with you when that happens. We just spent a day with Premier Clark and members of her cabinet at a so-called historic meeting. And we found out that as the day went forward, we were in the back room trying to craft a joint communique, and we were not shocked, but deeply angered to find out that very communique had been shopped around the BC Business Council the day before. So it shows you who this provincial government is accountable to, who they take their direction from. The Harper government is no different, but we as the people will make that difference. Why? Lim lim.